All right, we're glad to have you back. The killings in the north-central part of Nigeria have continued almost unchecked, despite several promises from the federal government and security agencies to put a stop to it.
Now, last week, suspected herders launched a deadly attack on a village in Mukari local government area of Taraba State, killing no fewer than 25 people. Now, the attackers invaded another village while Inspector General of Police Ibrahim Idris was in Taraba.
Locals say the armed militia numbered about 200 opened fire on the villagers without provocation. Taraba has witnessed sustained attacks in recent times, and scores have lost their lives in at least 5 local government areas. Well, we have with us in the studio a journalist, Ima Bello. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning. Nice to see you, Ima.
Yes,
welcome.
Well, we do gather that you have been going around to Taraba and other areas that have been vulnerable to gunmen attacks and banditry and all whatnot. What have you been seeing? What really can you report, apart from this latest incident of 200 armed gunmen who go into a place, sack everyone, burn up the place, and move on?
Well, incidentally, I'm also from Taraba State, and I've been in government, and I still work with the government of the day, apart from the fact of what we do in journalism, which is to gather the facts.
Yes.
Taraba is not removed from the entire saga, which is now, to some extent, almost a national thing. You have crisis in Zamfara, you have it in Benue, you have it as far-flung as other places. So Taraba is just one of that. But I think what makes Taraba a bit different from what's going on is also heightened because Jaratiwa Danjuma recently spoke about, raised that alarm. And Taraba has almost become, recently, the last frontier of this crisis. And it's deepening by the day. You have a situation where almost every other day you have reports of this kind of attack. I think the pattern is already set, a situation where people are in their villages or in the middle of the night, and then they are attacked. And of course, again, you don't see serious arrests made of the attackers, and it's a continuous thing. And I think Taraba has a unique relationship with this crisis in the sense that it has raised a lot of alarm of what's going on. I think it's also a crisis that we need to look, deeper than what we're seeing, and not even just as reporters, but as citizens who are concerned about the lives of human beings. And that's why the governor of the state, Governor Darius Dixon Ishaku, has continuously called out to the authorities to say, look, you have to do something. We need prompt response. We need professionalism. We need a situation where the army can, quickly deal with these matters in a way that citizens, have a lot of faith in what they're doing. But in a situation where, at the height of, like you reported just now, when the Inspector General of Police is actually in town, it doesn't get better than that when you have the IGP in your city, or in your state. And then, of course, right there somewhere, and then you begin to have this attack. Of course, there's this much anyone can do about, a lone wolf that wants to attack people.
But really, what exactly are we dealing with here? I mean, you say Taraba is the last frontier of this crisis or war. Or what exactly are we dealing with? What are you able to decipher from your standpoint?
I think this is a question that is enjoying a lot of airing. People are asking this question, and the answers are actually what we're all dealing with. And the answers are the things that we must find, which is who is attacking us, what's killing us, who are the people, and why. Because even if you put it down to the crisis of, let's say, herders, and I'm talking now as a colleague, as a reporter, even if you say it is the, the narrative of the farmer-herders clash, we have a situation where people are just in their houses and then they are attacked. It's nothing to do with farms. We know the ancient crisis of, farmers and herders having a clash. But what's going on now? You have a situation, the village you just talk about, just a little village somewhere in Sundi, near Ukari local government. And then you have people, attackers who just went in there, gunned down people, killed people. A soldier was killed in that attack, by the way. So, I mean, it's not, I think it's bigger now than even the so-called herders, farmers clash. And yes, we must, and this is where everybody must come into this conversation and get answers. What's going on? If it was just the normal thing, and like again, another thing to talk about is that are these the Fulanis that we have always lived with? Because people talk about Fulani herdsmen.
Exactly.
We grew up with Fulani people. In Taraba State, I grew up in Taraba, I was born there. We grew up with Fulani people. They were simple people who were moving around with their cows and all of that. And people that we just have relationship, interaction with. Something else is happening. And I think, like some people are beginning to to look at it, that either they've been infiltrated, the normal Fulani people that we know, because they too, you know, are part of this crisis in a way, because they suffer all sorts of things. There's a sense in which if you were Fulani and your tribe keeps, you know, reoccurring, and the people keep saying that, look, this thing is Fulani herdsmen, you get worried. We know our friends, our very good friends who are Fulani people, who are worried. They say, why do you even drag our tribe and name into this? Sincere people, sincere Fulani people that are really concerned too, and they've spoken to us. They are our allies in this crisis too, because we're not, it's not a us versus them kind of crisis. We are saying that check it very well. Has there been infiltration? Could it possibly be that some bad, you know, people among you, because there are bad people everywhere and good people everywhere. Is it possible that some bad people among you have colluded with these people and they are doing this? Check it very well. But you know, the tendency, and I think they're human enough to do that, the tendency is that, oh, why are you calling our tribe? Why do you mention us? So these are all ways of trying to find solutions. And the bigger question, I think, and we should be asking that question, especially as journalists, is how do you have whole range of people, numbering 200, going into a village? How do they even make the movement? How do they get, without being detected, how do they even get the kind of arms that they're using?
The point.
What's going on? Somebody must be funding this from somewhere. We must get to the bottom of it, rather than throwing tantrums, and each time we talk about it, like when our Governor Darius was talking about attack, imminent attack, saying that, look, we could be attacked in 10 days, even given the number of days.
And it happened,
it happened before 10 days.
Exactly. And so people turn around to say, why are you even talking about it? And this is what I find very strange. That each time you raise an alarm, or each time you talk about this problem, you become actually the issue.
Exactly. Now the recently, General T.Y. Danjuma came up with a statement that seemed to bring up a little more ripples around the country. But since then, he made that statement of indicting the military, saying they collude with the herders to kill people and all of that. And then the military also set up, at first they refuted, but they set up a committee or panel to go to Taraba and look at all of these things. What has really changed with that?
Well, yes, just recently, a few days ago, the panel was in Taraba, and they want to investigate what the general said. And I think that's a better approach than what we saw initially. Which is just, you know, downright condemnation from some quarters, and say, why should we even talk about this? Why should we talk about collusion? Why should we even ask people to defend themselves? It's strange that when people are going to be attacked and someone says, no, look, defend yourself, some people even have issues with that. It's really strange. And but that changed, of course. Nobody was talking about that after a few days. If you look at the train of conversation on that, on T.Y. Danjuma's statement, first there was the whole concern about why should they talk about self-defense. That passed. People now understood that even self-defense is actually guaranteed by the Nigerian Constitution. So they lived, that was taken out. But the other thing is the thorny issue of his attack on the military. People say, look, he has been a member of the military himself. He's a product of this elite agency. Why should he be saying that? And I think that is actually why we should take what he's saying
very seriously.
Yeah, because I mean,
he's talking from an insider.
Exactly. It's like us talking about our profession, talking about journalism and all that. I mean, someone should take us seriously, especially given our antecedents in the business. So, but I think that's what they work that back a little in the business. So, but I think that's what they work that back a little bit and say, okay, yes, let's take what the general is saying seriously. Let's even actually look at what he's talking about. Is there actually a case of collusion? We're waiting for they're in the state now doing their findings. But you should also remember that the general wasn't just talking about Taraba. When he said those things, of course, well, he said that in Jalingo and in Taraba. But certainly, he was going beyond the Taraba crisis or the Taraba situation to talk about maybe a huge problem. And I think the army should go beyond thinking about Taraba State alone and just listen to the general, ask him questions rather than getting angry. Like you say, yes, initially there were denials. One of the things that was said was that, yeah, we have cases of citizens complaining that that is normal.
Okay, so now what do we?
And they said, sorry, they say, but Taraba was not one of the states that complained about some of these things. And the governor, said, no, that's not true. I've always complained about these problems. But it's a good thing you are here now to check it for yourself. But my advice would be that while they are doing the Taraba thing, they should also be able to look at every other place, because some of the things that we say in Taraba seem to be resonating elsewhere. In Zamfara, for instance, the governor and even the emir was saying that, well, look, we knew these attacks were happening and we reported them. We were standing there, we were hoping that the people paid to defend us would defend us, but nothing happened. Things like that, you begin to hear them.
And then you've heard of withdrawals of security forces only for attacks to happen. But then again, what do we make of the statement from President Muhammadu Buhari that gunmen, the attackers, herdsmen, and the rest of them are actually from Libya, fallout of the crisis going on in Gaddafi's country?
Well, I think there's a whole lot of explanation going on about that. The president's spin doctors and spokesperson have been trying to walk that back, explain it to the rest of us what the statement. But it's very clear what the president said when he said that, look, it's this whole crisis is because of proliferation of arms, and of course, but there are people too that would turn back and say, well, look, that's not really addressing the problem
real
entirely,
issue.
the real
Exactly.
issue entirely. Remember when this crisis started, and that's part of the thing, and I don't know whether it's our fault in journalism, but when this problem started, we couldn't even give it a name. At the point, even government came up and said, no, you don't call it Fulani herdsmen crisis. So we yank up the Fulani part of it, you know, in respect to, so that we don't profile a certain tribe and everything. I understand all of that. Then we now call it herdsmen crisis. But eventually, again, it was so clear that you can't call it anything less than what we initially started calling it. And even government in the official literature actually call it a Fulani herdsmen crisis.
You know, the reason I asked that question, let me just bring this in so that we get clarity. If we say that, look, these people are foreigners, there must be some kind of agenda. And the question I continue to ask is are we at war and we don't know it? Is the Nigerian government facing some kind of agenda from an external aggression and does not understand what exactly is going on? Because these people are armed, they come to Nigeria. Is there a reason why Nigeria is a target of these attacks?
You know, these are questions that I think the million-dollar question, if you will, and these are things that we should all be asking. These questions need to be asked, and the people to give us the right answers, of course, the government, because it has the constitutional rule to protect us, which is actually the first job of any government anywhere. Governor Darius have always said that, look, if I don't even do anything, I need to protect my people, because that's the number one reason why anyone was elected. But when you pass the buck and you complain and you say, no, the attackers are coming from elsewhere, and you don't, Nigerians are asking questions and seeking solutions. Who is coming from where? Where are they getting at? How come? How do you even move people from less than 200 like in that village?
Number of
how
people.
do they move all the way to that place? It's a very simple thing. If we are under attack, by who? Someone somewhere is paid to do this job. There are agencies in this country, very smart agencies, that know how to answer this question.
Nigerians are even asking more critical questions, because Ghana is faced with almost the same thing, and they handle the issue head on, and Ghana everywhere is peaceful. Now, bring it back home, where we talk about General Danjuma saying people should defend themselves. The Constitution guarantees you defend yourself one way or the other. But let's look a little more critical. The agencies of security are not in the hands of the governors. SSS or DSS, the police, the army, they're all in the hands of the federal government. Now, there is little the state governors can do than just report to the federal government, this is what's going on, these are the intels we're getting. But down home, are the people really arming themselves? Vigilantes, or is anybody being conscious of saying, okay, let us come together, form a cooperative, form a group, form something to defend themselves? Is there something like that going on within the villages and homes?
You know, we need to also bring it down to understand what it means to defend yourself. Defend yourself does not really, it's not a call to arm. It's not, nobody is asking you to go get, because I mean, some of us are not trained in the art of even using a kitchen knife, let alone guns and all that. We are not armed people. But defending yourself will come in different, and our people are doing that already, which is one, they are getting more, you know, more conscious of awareness. We need to tell them to be more careful. It could just mean watching your movement. It could mean just being more vigilant on the ground and ensuring that you report what you're saying. Our people are doing a lot of that, and there's a little bit of pushback because of that. Because you don't, what else do you tell people that are almost practically defenseless, and the people who are supposed to defend them, you know, are there. So the only thing you tell them is actually to find ways to stay alive and to stay safe.
To be more vigilant.
To be more vigilant. And to be, General Danjuma comes from Taku, a town where all sorts of funny things are going on. Remember, a member of the House of Assembly, late Husiaibi, was kidnapped in this same town. And there's a barracks in this town. Kidnapped almost close to this barracks. And then, you know, he was kidnapped, and then of course later we found his body was found. He's dead, and all sorts of things. And you have attacks around. You don't sit back as the chief executive of a state, and the governor is from this town too. You don't sit back, yes, it's from Takum. You don't sit back and say, oh, okay, let me just watch my people. You do many things, and he has been doing that. He's written letter, he's raised alarm, he's blown the whistle, he's done all that. And he said, look, we are under attack. You have to protect us. You have to do something about it. If a member of the House of Assembly, a member of that kind of elite could just be picked like, you know, any other person and then killed after that, you know that somebody needs to have a watch over. So that call was not a call for, you know, to war, or the call to ask people to arm themselves to fight. Nobody was asking people to fight.
Okay, now while you have that call on people to do all they can to defend themselves, then you have this directive from the IG of Police, Ibrahim Idris, to the CPs, the commissioners of police in every state, to mop up arms, illegal arms in circulation, because there is enough of that everywhere. Anyway, and that's been linked to the rise in banditry and, you know, all the kinds of killings that you find all over the country. Juxtapose that. Mop up arms, defend yourself. How do we balance this?
Exactly. I mean, that's the question we need to be asking. And there's nothing wrong with mopping up illegal arms.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's make that
nothing wrong with that. Yes.
Wrong with it. I am a supporter. In Taraba State, we're supporters of the fact that we do not want proliferation of arms. The governor came with a mantra of peace, and you cannot have peace when people have assault rifles and all that kind of little small arm or whatever, you know, that can actually assault people with and all. So yes, mopping up arms is a very important thing. You should do that, but you should do a holistic job of it. Don't just take away the cutlasses and the knives of, you know, defenseless people and then leave the big guns in the hand of the people that are coming to kill them. If you are going to mop up arms, you are going to do all of that cleanup, then it should be holistic.
Comprehensive.
It should be comprehensive. And this is the problem. When you mop up those things, and then the people who the aggressors, the people who victimize these people, have access to their own weapons and they attack them. You know, you leave people thinking that you were not very serious with your call in the first place. And that's part of the challenge I think the security agency will have to deal with. That how do we do this and at the same time, you know, safeguard people, you know, who are defenseless, they don't have any way to defend themselves, they're vulnerable, they're exposed. How do we save them at the same time and deal with the aggressors? And all that can come from just pure professional leadership on their part, which is to safeguard people, which is the #1 job they're supposed to do. In some parts of the world, the police can even do this kind of thing. You don't really need, you know, a contingent of army to do that. If the police is empowered enough, you know, it's motivated enough, it's giving all the tools that it's supposed to work with, and then they stay professional, they can really do that. Yes, they can mop up the army.
Incidentally, it's the army that has arrested some kingpins. One actually, unfortunately, named Danjuma. One of the kingpins in the Taraba killings. How reassuring really is that? Is it does it show you that yes, indeed, the army are doing something to end this senseless killings?
Well, arrests are very good. You know, arrests are in there. There's a proper place for arrest in dealing with any kind of insurgency. But again, the question is, what kind of arrest? Who are you picking? You know, we need to know that the big names, the sponsors of some of the insurgents and the people causing this. You know, the big names of people who are financing huge set of people to go into a village and clear them out. Those are the kind of, I think, big arrests that people are waiting to hear. It will help, of course, it helps to know that some arrests are going to be made. But then the question will be, what kind of arrest? The caliber of people being arrested. And then after the arrest, what happened? Do we have any feedback mechanism? They'll tell you that, look, we're doing a whole lot of things in the background. Nigerians need to know. Nigerians will be happier to know that, look, the sponsors of the people with the big guns, the aggressors, the victimizers. Nigerians would like to know that they're being picked, they're being arrested. And I think some intelligence gathering can help to know who are the big names behind these people. Who are the big, it's just like they
maybe government knows that already.
Well, if they know that, Nigerians will also be, she asks about reassuring. It will be very reassuring to know that, yes, we're picking the bigger mastermind
because
of some of the
because it looks, it is just a replica of when Nigerians were saying, we want to know the names of looters in the country. Government already had the list. It's the issue of releasing it, and they did eventually. But that calls to what you're saying. Now, in Taraba State, or in all of those, Wukari, Takum, and all of those places, are there soldiers and police on ground that people could see visibly going around?
Well, until recently, when, I don't know whether it's part of the military exercise or whatever, then, people woke up, for instance, one day in Takum and didn't see soldiers on the streets anymore. But we have a barracks there's a barracks in
Takum.
and in some places. And again, so you know, it's beyond that. It's beyond just seeing the physical presence of soldiers and military men. What reassures people is not just seeing a soldier in uniform or a policeman. What reassures people is the level, the quality of security that you give them. And it goes beyond even the psychological sense of security, of just seeing a man in uniform. It has to do with the faith or
confidence.
The feeling of safety.
That's the right word I was
confidence
the confidence that the citizens are able to develop in you. And how do you do that? And I think the military too has been concerned about the fact that they want to build greater relationship with the civil populace. They want to build, you know, greater understanding so that there will be. And this is the time for all of that. We need to know that our soldiers, our best and brightest, like they call them, are actually working for us. They are with us. They don't belong to a certain political party, because soldiers don't belong, or the army does not belong to a party in government, does not belong to any particular part of the country, belongs to everyone. Actually, they belong to everyone
and belong to
no one.
to take from the president's speech. So, to build confidence between the civil populace and the security agency, this needs to happen. And that's part of the call of the governor. Governor Darius is not at war with soldiers. Taraba State is not at war with the army. What we are saying is that we need greater relationship, greater understanding between the two of us to know that, yes, we have an army that is working for all. And not an army
irrespective
of who you are, because you do not belong to a particular government or a particular people. Where are you taking your directives from? And you say something about the fact that governors actually lame ducks when it comes to this. Nobody takes any order from them. So their job is actually to just reel out their right to the authorities.
Which is what they've been doing, but the point is anybody listening?
Exactly.
Now, on the herdsmen issue, Audogbe, the agriculture minister, said recently that things could even get worse in 2019 as far as the herdsmen attacks is concerned. If nothing is done about the ranching suggestion, which of course is what he has been talking about, that ranching is the way to go. And that has to do with the herdsmen attacks. But what do you do about the gunmen? Like in the case of the 200 that, you know, attacked a whole village overnight and left.
You know what worries me? I think we have gone, I don't know, I think we have gone from just, you know, the ancient crisis of, you know, herders and farmers having, you know, coming into their farmland. And maybe it started from there, but I think it's blown into another thing altogether. And it's because of lack of sincerity and the fact that we were not ready to identify a problem for what it is. But be that as it may, in Taraba, for instance, we have a serious situation with the herders farmers thing. That is also a reality that we're living with every day, and that's why we came up with the anti-open grazing law, where we try to isolate both sides. You know, there are two modes of production. One is about cattle rearing, the other is farmers. The farmer is sitting in one place. That's his business. That's the mode of operation. He has a land, he's sitting there. But the person who comes into his land, you know automatically that becomes the aggressor. But again, you have to also think about the cattle rearer, the man rearing his cattle. He needs to actually find food for his cattle. You have to think about it. And so we have a law now that is thinking for everyone. After all, the governor of Taraba State is also the governor of the farmers, as well as the governor of the herders. He thinks about, he has to worry about both sides. So, and he worries about both sides. And this is what he has done. He said, okay, let's have a law where the farmer can actually have his farm, and then the herders too can actually take care of his cow in the best way possible, and keeping with best global practices, where you have ranching, a situation where you have cows in a place. So we have such a law. It generated some crisis. Some of the herders say, oh, this is a beautiful thing. Ranching cows is not such a strange thing, because in our state there's a place called the Mambila, and the Mambila Plateau has probably the highest number of cows in this country. Most people don't know that. I will invite you to the Mambila. It's one of the most beautiful places.
Yeah, we saw pictures of Mambila. It's a beautiful place.
It's a slice of Europe.
Beautiful. Temperate region there.
Temperate region, slice of Europe, fine place. The president can go there can make it a Camp David sort of a place where you can go for holidays and all that. You talk about Obudu. Obudu is actually just the photocopy or the tail end of the Mambila. The Mambila is the real thing. That's where you have the best weather, you have milk, you have, in fact, a paradise.
We heard of the Mambila.
Thank you. On that Mambila, it will interest you to know that we have over 80% of the cows in, you can talk about every week. There's a huge cow population.
Amazing.
There. And over the years, they've actually practiced a form of ranching. Ranching is not really strange to them. They've done that. If you go there, you have a whole range of ranches there. So it's not as if we are saying something new. So the headers or the headsmen, the Fulani headsmen in Taraba State, say, well, you know, we have no problems with your law. It's only we have issues with aspect of the law. And because it's a thinking government, it's a government that is thinking for everyone, they step down the law a bit and say, okay, let's look into your concerns. And what are the concerns? They say, well, we have issues with the punitive measures, the penalties that you've outlined. If my cow strays into someone's farm, this form of punishment and everything. Because everywhere in the world, ranching is actually becoming the best global practice. And there are countries with larger number of cows than even Nigeria. And they have embraced ranching because you have better cows, you have better milk production, you have better, you know, dairy products.
Better chain. The
and
entire market.
And guess what? You also reduce the crisis because the farmer, the headman too, is in trouble with the farmer. So you have to find a way of actually, you have to think for the headsman too. And of course, these are the sort of thinking problem you have when you have to when you want to move from one mode of production
to another.
They are so used to all of that. But in countries where people own cow, they've embraced ranching. And I think Always is actually alluding to that when
we don't have all the time now. We're about rounding off. But let me ask you this. The crisis in Taraba is similar to the one in Benue. These states are neighboring states. Are there any kind of collaboration in sharing ideas as to how they can come together, pull resources together, pull manpower together, pull personnel together, and concept to tackle
solve
this
the problem?
Yes, and what has made that a bit possible is because both Governor Otom of Benue State and the Governor of Taraba State were all ministers in the Jonathan administration. So they've come a long way from the Jonathan administration, so they understand each other very well. And I think, yes, they find ways of, you know, they have shared values, common problems, and because of that, they found ways of, they meet constantly and they try to deal with some of the crises in a joint kind of effort. They look like similar problems, but when you look at it, maybe there are a bit, you know, areas of variation and uniqueness. But what we have seen is that, yes, there have been greater synergy, and we have now become brothers in crisis, joined by the same kind of grief. And while they were making their burials, their open grave,
the mass burial.
We are having also a mass burial in Taraba. So we've been joined by grief. And being joined by grief also help you to actually think of joint strategies. And that's what we're doing together with Benue State.
And of course, Middle Belt youths have been asking for Middle Belt Development Commission like the NDDC and the rest of them as a way of solving some of these problems. We'll have to let you go, Imabelo. We gather that you have to fly back to Taraba. All right, the next time you're coming, you know what to bring with you. Imabelo is a journalist. Thank you so much. We look forward to visiting Mambila anytime.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Right.
All right, we'll take a short breather, and when we come back, we'll be looking at this rush for suspending lawmakers in the legislature. Stay with us.